A man in Manila got into an empty jeepney at 3 a.m. and got out carrying something that never left him. Within 5 days, he disappeared. But people say he's still out there, walking the streets at night, trying to pass it on. This is a true horror story from the Philippines about something locals call the Kapitá, a spirit that doesn't haunt places, it haunts you. Mateo was 26 years old. He worked the graveyard shift as a call center agent in Ortigas, Metro Manila. Every night, he sat under harsh fluorescent lights, answering calls from strangers on the other side of the world, while the rest of his city slept. His life was inverted. He slept during the day, worked through the night, and over time, his body stopped knowing what normal felt like. He was always tired, not just sleepy, but deeply, physically exhausted. The kind of exhaustion that sits in your bones and never really goes away. It was August, monsoon season. Rain poured endlessly over the city, flooded streets, clogged drains, a constant smell of wet concrete and damp air. Even inside buildings, you could feel the humidity clinging to your skin. That night, Mateo clocked out later than usual. Just past 3 a.m. The sky outside was dark, but not completely black. A dull purple, lit faintly by the glow of distant streetlights. The city felt empty. No traffic, no crowds, no noise. Just rain and silence. He stood at the side of the road, waiting for a jeepney. Minutes passed, then more minutes. The rain soaked into his clothes, and a cold wind crept through the streets. That uneasy feeling started to settle in, like he wasn't alone, even though no one was there. Then finally, headlights appeared through the mist. A jeepney, old, rusted, barely holding itself together. It rolled slowly toward him, engine rumbling unevenly. Mateo raised his hand. The jeepney stopped. He climbed inside, and immediately, something felt wrong. The air inside was freezing. Not cool, freezing. Like stepping into a place where no one should be alive. And then, the smell. Rotting, wet, like river mud, mixed with something metallic, something faintly sour. Mateo sat down. The seat was damp beneath him. He wiped his hands against his jeans, frowning. Then he looked up. The driver wasn't watching the road. He was staring into the rearview mirror. His eyes were wide, locked onto something, right beside Mateo. Mateo felt his chest tighten. He slowly turned his head. There was no one there. Then, something dropped onto his shoulders. Heavy, sudden, violent. Mateo's body lurched forward. The weight crushed down on his back, forcing his spine to bend. It felt like something had climbed onto him. He gasped for air, reached behind him. Nothing. But the weight stayed, pressing, clinging, getting heavier. The driver suddenly slammed the brakes. The jeepney screeched to a stop in the middle of the road. The driver turned around slowly, his face pale, terrified. He lifted his hand and pointed toward the exit, shaking. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Mateo stumbled out of the jeepney. The moment his feet hit the pavement, the driver sped away. Didn't ask for money. Didn't look back. Just disappeared into the rain. Mateo stood there, alone, breathing heavily. The weight was still there, and now it felt even heavier. If you're enjoying these kinds of real horror stories, make sure you subscribe, because the next story might be even worse than this one. Mateo started walking home. Each step was harder than the last. His legs dragged. His back bent further forward. It felt like he was carrying another person. By the time he reached his apartment building, his entire body was shaking. He climbed the stairs slowly, one step at a time, each movement sending pain through his spine. When he finally got inside his apartment, he locked the door behind him. Silence. Thick, heavy, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. He dropped his keys, walked toward the bathroom, turned on the light, splashed water onto his face. Cold, refreshing. For a moment, he felt normal again. Then he looked up and froze. In the mirror, there was a hand resting on his shoulder, pale, bloated. The skin looked swollen, like it had been submerged in water for days. The fingers, long, thin, the nails cracked, packed with black dirt, digging into his shirt, gripping him. Mateo spun around. Nothing there. He turned back to the mirror. Gone. His breathing became frantic. No. No, no, no. He shook his head. This isn't real. Just stress. Just exhaustion. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. He stepped into the shower, turned the water on. Steam filled the room. The heat should have helped, but it didn't. One spot on his back stayed ice cold. Then something brushed against his leg. Slow, wet, like strands of hair. Mateo jerked back violently, slipped, almost fell. He looked down. The water swirling at his feet was dark, thick, filled with mud. Days passed. Mateo stopped going to work, stopped answering calls, stopped leaving his apartment. The weight never left. It grew heavier, stronger, more present. He began hearing footsteps, wet footsteps, moving through his apartment late at night, slow, dragging, always stopping right behind him. He stopped looking in mirrors, because every time he did, it was closer, tighter, clinging harder. On the fifth night, a storm hit the city. Lightning cracked across the sky. Thunder shook the building. Then, suddenly, the power went out. Total darkness. No light. No sound. Just his breathing. And then, drip, drip, drip. From the corner of the room, Mateo slowly turned on his phone flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness and stopped on something standing in the corner. Tall, too tall. Its head nearly touching the ceiling. Its body soaked, water dripping from its limbs. Its skin gray, bloated, hanging loosely from its frame. Its hair long, covering its face completely. It stood there, completely still, watching him. Mateo couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then suddenly, it moved. Not walking, gliding, crossing the room instantly, until it stood directly in front of him. Then, it wrapped its arms around him, cold, rotting, tight, and leaned into his ear, whispering something, wet, gurgling, inhuman. The weight became unbearable, like being crushed under the earth itself. The phone slipped from his hand. Darkness returned, and everything went silent. Days later, his landlord broke into the apartment. The smell had become unbearable. The place was empty, but the floors were covered in dried mud. Mateo was gone, but weeks later, people started seeing him, walking alone at night, back bent, head lowered, whispering to something no one else could see, waiting at empty streets, looking for someone to take the weight off his shoulders. In Filipino folklore, this is known as the Kapitá, a spirit that clings to the living. It attaches itself to the exhausted, the vulnerable, and slowly drains them. That's why, in the Philippines, people follow a rule called bugbug. After attending a wake, you don't go straight home, because something might follow. So if you ever feel something heavy on your shoulders after a long night, don't ignore it, because it might not be yours. And if you made it this far, make sure to subscribe, because you never know which story might follow you next.